we're kind of in the middle of a mess right now. Ceasefire, and I thought your column yesterday was great. You also have the Wall Street Journal echoing a lot of your sentiments that this ceasefire is questionable, to say the least. We're a great Wall Street Journal article, and I'm sure you've heard from people from the region, as I did all day yesterday, that they're horrified. Our allies said this is not where the war can stop. You have, and actually there's no regime change. I mean, the regime is actually part of the old regime, except it's more hardened. You've got the Revolutionary Guard, the most hardened elements running it, number one. Number two, you have no ridding of the 970 pounds of nuclear material. And by the way, a lot of people say it's nearly weapons grade because they're talking about 90%. No, the bombs we used, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were 60%, which is what Iran has right now. There were elements of 60% there. So they still have the ability to create at least a dirty bomb and level many cities with that, with the nukes that they still have. And the Strait, I mean, let's just face it, we're in a worse situation with the Strait now than we were before, and much better before the war started. Now you have Iran either controlling the Strait or sort of this quasi-agreement with the Strait. Finally, I just want to end, because you also touched on the fact that the remarkable reporting by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan about how this war began. Netanyahu just walked us down the primrose path to this war and just played everybody. And it's fascinating that Marco Rubio even admitted we went to war because Netanyahu was going to war, so we had to go to war. And so that's how the war started. And right now, this 2-week ceasefire, which again is the most ambiguous ceasefire. We have no idea what it really means. But now you have Netanyahu continuing his efforts to blow up half of Lebanon and refusing to adhere to the basic terms that Donald Trump said we could probably get to, and saying he's not ready to end this war. And of course, Netanyahu will never be able to end a war because, as everybody's been saying for several years now, the second war's end, he gets tried and probably goes to jail. So it's just been an endless war. And yes, that's something we have been saying for years now. That's something, there's deep reporting on this. So we are still being led around by Benjamin Netanyahu, who does not want this war to end and will not agree to any ceasefire terms.
Yeah, we ought to be pushing back very hard against the Israelis in Lebanon. You know, Joe, I can imagine intelligence coming in about, say, Iran changing the status of its nuclear material. And you should say that would be existential. The United States and Israel should be prepared to respond to that. But what the Israelis are doing right now in Lebanon, I would argue, is not, shall we say, existential. This is not something they have to do. So to be blunt, we ought to tell them to knock it off, remove the pretext from Iran for what they're now doing with the Strait of Hormuz, but we also ought to lean very hard on Iran. And again, I still think the administration's making a major mistake by letting them get away with this. They are still getting revenue, more, as you pointed out yesterday, I think it was more revenue than ever before because of higher prices and the fees they're charging. We ought to basically, again, say, knock it off. You're either going to let this strait be used by everybody freely, or you're not going to get to use it either. Put a blockade out there in the Gulf of Oman and just shut it down. Give them a choice and go to their buddies in India, Pakistan, China, and so forth and say, hey, you guys are dependent on getting oil from Iran. Well, tell them to open up the strait for everybody. So going into this, we're just not setting up these talks, which are going to be really difficult. One last thing, the J.D. Vance thing. If the U.S. position is going to permanently, Iran can't do anything in the nuclear area, basically zero is the only acceptable outcome, I don't think we're going to get a deal. So at some point, we've got to decide whether we're prepared to accept some ceiling on Iranian nuclear-related activity with intrusive inspections, whether that kind of an outcome is acceptable. But if we basically say you can't do anything in this realm, I don't think there's an agreement that's going to be possible.
Yeah, and Willie, once again, just a childlike actor over at the Pentagon holding a press conference yesterday talking about how Iran's been humiliated and this and that. I mean, first of all, it's not true. Iran's sitting there going, wait a second, we're making more money now than we were making before the war started. Okay, check.
They also just don't think.
We also control the Strait now in a way we never could have dreamed of trying to control the Strait before. Check. We have now proven to ourselves we can take the toughest blows that the United States sends us, and we can stay in this fight and make their life more difficult than our lives. I mean, the idea, and this is something, again, that I heard from people across the region yesterday, the idea that these terrorists that are running Iran give a damn about whether bridges are blown up, give a damn whether the Iranian people are suffering, give a damn about anything but holding on to power. That's as preposterous as saying Hamas was concerned about how people in Gaza were being punished for Hamas's sins. So, again, they're just wild miscalculations. And to see General Cain have to stand there while Pete Hegseth is doing all of this like third grade chest thumping, like he's out on the on the playground, and then General Cain having to say, well, you know, we're still basically at war, and Americans could still die here. It's just, again, I'm just shocked, really am, that Donald Trump at this late stage, with Pete Hegseth humiliating him and the administration every day with his stupid routine, third grade routine. I'm just shocked he's still allowed to go out there in front of a microphone, because he just embarrasses himself, and he sets Donald Trump and this administration and this country up for continued humiliation at the hands of the Iranians.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking yesterday, and we carried it live, about a great military victory, effectively suggesting the war is all but won. And because of this great military victory, he's describing it forced Iran to the negotiating table, which is not quite how it played out, as we explained yesterday. And this 10-point plan presented by Iran that President Trump has called, quote, workable, is completely in favor of Iran. Everything inside this 10-point deal that now is the foundation of a negotiation favors every objective that the Iran and this regime has had for these decades and decades. So, you know, Pete Hegseth is one thing we know from the reporting we saw in the New York Times yesterday on the front page that we talked about quite a bit. The General Cain in the room that day, in the Situation Room, was one voice that did say, in a direct quote in the piece, be skeptical of Israel in this. They are trying to lead us into this war so that they can continue the war. It appears on this day one of the ceasefire that is what is happening. Also with us this morning, the co-host of the Rest is Politics podcast, the BBC's Katty Kay, and MS Now's senior national security reporter, David Rohde. Let's set the table a little bit where things stand this morning, as that tenuous 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran is already being tested hours after it was put in place. The Speaker of Iran's parliament yesterday accused the United States of breaking 3 of his country's 10 conditions for an end to the fighting, objecting in part to the ongoing deadly Israeli attacks in Lebanon. Iran's foreign minister also insists Lebanon be included in the truce, but both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the White House argue that was not part of the deal. Israel's offensive there shows no signs of slowing down. Lebanon says nearly 200 people were killed, hundreds more wounded just yesterday in one of the deadliest days for the country since the start of the war. Meanwhile, as we mentioned, the status of the Strait of Hormuz, the crucial waterway and key piece of this deal that carries about 20% of the world's oil supply, remains unclear. Iranian state media yesterday claimed the strait had again been closed in response to Israel's continued strikes on Lebanon. The White House, though, dismissed those reports while calling any possible closure completely unacceptable. As the ceasefire hangs in the balance this morning, President Trump issued a new warning, writing on social media that all U.S. military personnel and assets will remain in the region until, quote, the real agreement reached is fully complied with, adding that if it's not, attacks will be bigger and stronger than ever before. Vice President J.D. Vance asked yesterday about those claims made by the Speaker of Iran's parliament that the U.S. had violated the ceasefire agreement. Here's what he said.
let me just say this. I actually wonder how good he is at understanding English, because there are things that he said that frankly didn't make sense in the context of the negotiations that we've had. He talked about an attack that had allegedly happened on Iran and how that was a violation of the ceasefire. Ceasefires are always messy. An hour after the president announced the ceasefire, the Iranians launched a bunch of missiles. Then the Israelis responded. Then some of the Gulf Arab states responded. This is the nature of a ceasefire. No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness.
Those comments come as Vance is set to lead a U.S. negotiating team to Pakistan for talks with Iran starting on Saturday. That delegation expected to include Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So, David Rohde, you sat here with us as we watched that briefing yesterday with Pete Hegseth and General Kane, describing in some ways a situation that just didn't match up necessarily from Secretary Hegseth's side anyway to the realities on the ground. And things have changed even since we sat together less than 24 hours ago. I guess one question is, there seems to be a disagreement about what the ceasefire is, what the terms of the ceasefire are right now.
Yeah, and it was concerning to me to have the vice president talk about, does he understand English? It's not a good way to start talks, and it reminded me of Steve Witkoff not bringing his own translator to his initial meetings with Vladimir Putin. And so what clearly happened was within hours, Iran asserted its new power. It's controlled the Strait of Hormuz and shut it off. And I'm just concerned about the basic competence of this administration and the ability of the president's advisors to give him bad news. And what Joe was talking about with Hegseth, he stated, again, a total, utterly, Iran was incapable of resisting after they shot down 2 of our planes. But in terms of President Trump, no other president has shown the courage and resolve of this president. It's just astonishing if you're looking at Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, FDR. It's crazy, and and it's part of this is the Times reporting. As we look forward, are they competent to carry out these negotiations, given the way Vance is already moving into this? And then, is anyone going to give the president the blunt advice he needs and deserves?
Well, I mean, that's a problem. I mean, are they? I mean, are they, whether you're talking about the Pentagon or I mean, you saw what the acting attorney general said yesterday to Donald Trump. I love you. I love you. Even if you fire me. Even if you fire me. Willie, he says, even if you fire me, I love you. That's my message to Donald. I mean, no, they're not going to give him the advice he needs to hear. It's good for America. It's good for the administration. It's good for Donald Trump if someone will tell him the truth.
Well, that's
they just don't do it. Except, I don't know. Maybe Todd Blanche does love. I don't know. I don't know what kind of love it is. If it's agape love, I don't know what kind of love it is. But Todd Blanche literally stood up and said,
"I know.
I love you."
It was really painful to watch.
And then they asked another question. He said, "Wait, shut up, shut up. You had me at hello. You had me at hello." I was very moved. Very moved by that moment. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That was Jerry Maguire. But watching Todd Blanche yesterday, he did sort of strike a Renee Zellweger type figure.
All right, just play Todd.
Play Todd. Here's Todd.
Play Todd.
Todd or Jerry Maguire?
I did not ask for this job. I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime. And if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir.
We kind of need to play Springsteen in the background there.
Yeah, let's just not. Okay, back to...
Look at Caddy. Caddy's crying.
No, we're all crying.
It's so beautiful.
But not for what you're saying. The whole thing is so disturbing.
Mr. President, he loves you. He loves you, Mr. President.
It's pathetic that they feel he needs
He's grown men, I know.
And if he needs that, that's pathetic. So it's kind of the circle of love there for you.
Well, I always go to Willie after we go off-track betting on the dogs and we win, I'll put my mouth, go, love you, man. But that's kind of different than what this guy did.
Okay, so there's obviously growing concern about this situation with Iran. And I do think that
I have growing concern about Todd Blanche.
Yes, I have concern about making my next point without being interrupted. So here it is.
I love you.
There's a couple. Stop.
I love you.
Stop. We're about to get to Wall Street.
Can you believe this administration? The clowns in this administration?
Well, actually,
seriously, really? Can you believe them?
It's scary.
I mean,
it's actually scary. Because, first of all, where have the Republicans been
that is a good
during this whole I'm going to decimate a civilization?
Yeah.
Let's just say
where are they?
What should be said at a moment like this. When a president says something like that, you have to wonder.
Here.
About the stability of the individual and whether it is safe and whether what is being said applies to the Constitution or is actually a war crime. Republicans, this was a moment to do your job. Where were you? Where are you? Do you even exist? Are you that pathetic? Do you love him too unconditionally to the point where you put everything behind you and only have him in front of you like he's some sort of deity? Is that where we are?
That's a fair question.
Is that where we are, that you can't even say what's right when he threatens to decimate a civilization? Do you want to know what? I have to say, I feel bad for you because at this point you have Trump adjacent and Trump supporting platforms that usually, quite frankly, are right there with you, who are pushing back. And we're going to show some of them later on in the show, just vehemently cutting down what was wrong about what happened over the past few days.
Needed to be said.
Actually saying what needed to be said, saying what you can't say. Right.